Last episode, I gave up all my good items and built a starter base to give myself a break from endgame Minecraft. But today, I want to take that starter base we made and I want to start transforming it into a proper point of interest in my Minecraft world. And I was so excited to continue this desert adventure that I actually had a custom Egyptian pharaoh skin made for me specifically. But now it's time to hop in a boat, sail all the way home, and recollect all of our netherite gear and tools to really help us get started on this desert transformation. And let me tell you, as nice as it was to experience early game Minecraft again, I really missed my elytra. Flying around really does just make things 10 times easier. And speaking of making things 10 times easier, our new desert base is thousands of blocks away from our starter island. And during this episode, I'm going to have to be traveling back and forth between the two bases a lot. So in order to cut down on time, we're heading into the nether to set up a new portal on the nether roof. That way we can use these subspace nether portals to travel to and from the bases about 8 times faster than we would if we just flew between them with the elytra. Oh, and of course I'm going to take a moment at the gold farm to repair all of our tools and get us some of our extra levels back. But now that we got all of our good items back, I'm not going to waste any time and we're going to get right into the block collecting portion of this video. And I want you guys to take a guess. Go ahead, take a guess. You'll never guess which block we're collecting first. You'll never guess it. It's calcite. It's more calcite, and we're gonna need a lot of it, so I'm headed over to this mountain a few thousand blocks away. Fortunately for me, now that we have our elytra back, that is not really that big of a deal anymore, and we're just going to scoop up as much of this as possible. With the calcite collected, it was time to move on to the next block we needed, which actually wasn't a block, it was a dye. I needed some yellow dye to help us craft yellow wool and yellow stained glass. So I sat down at the sunflower inside of our greenhouse, and I just bone mealed it repeatedly until we had enough yellow dye. After that, I went on outside and dyed all of my sheep yellow so we could collect all of this wool in one go, and once that was done, I just spent a couple of hours shearing them. Then it was time to move back on over to the mining district to get inside of our super smelter to use the last of the glass we had remaining from previous episodes. And once I had that, I just threw it in a crafting table along with the yellow dye and got us the stained glass we need. Now we're briefly going to take a break from block collecting and we're actually going to get a building task done real quick. Now the reason why I collected all of this yellow glass is because in my last video, one of my subscribers pointed out that the pyramid kind of looks weird because the base of the structure has white stained panes around it, but the top does not have yellow panes around it, which makes the whole thing look kind of uneven. So we're going to be heading up to the top here to fill in the remainder of the top of this pyramid with yellow stained panes in the hopes that it'll make this thing look a bit more uniform. Yep. They were definitely right. This looks 10 times better, and we're definitely going to be doing this going forward on the rest of the pyramids. But after that was done, it was time to go back to block collecting. And I started out by heading to a nearby plains biome and scooping up a bunch of short grass. Now, the reason why I needed all this short grass was because we were going to continue to transform the water's edge along the river to make it look more tropical and give it the feel that life is being grown back into the desert. Now, of course, short grass wasn't the only block we were going to need to get this done. We also needed regular grass blocks. So in the same plains biome, I began terraforming the landscape, collecting up all the grass blocks I would need, while simultaneously attempting to maintain an organic shape to the land so it doesn't look like complete trash when we leave this area. And in addition to this, we were also going to be needing some moss blocks. So once I was done, I just went back over to our greenhouse and sat inside of our moss farm for a couple of hours and collected about 4 to 5 shulker boxes full of moss. Then it was finally time to begin terraforming. And I started this the same way I did in the last episode. I went into a creative copy of the world and I used Axiom to edit the landscape into a smoother shape, and then I brought that landscape over in with Lightmatica and I simply cut out all the sand bits that needed to be replaced with grass and moss. Then once that was done, I did an entire passover of said grass and moss, and that enabled us to complete the base layer of this terraforming project. But now that we've finished the base layer, it's time to move on and begin placing down some of the ground cover. So I'm just going to do a once over this whole area, covering the first layer with short grass. And I also have some ferns and bushes left over from last episode, so I'm going to go through and place those down as well. And there's actually a lot of bushes we have access to, which is really good. And speaking of having a lot of something, I want to take this moment while we do this to give a shout out to my current Patreon members and channel members. You guys have been growing both the channel membership page and the Patreon page at an incredibly fast rate, and I really do appreciate all of your support. As always, I can't thank you enough for everything everything you do for me, and I don't think you guys realize just how much you contribute to the growth of this channel. You're really helping me to continue to be able to post on YouTube in months where maybe I'm not posting as much or haven't posted at all because of real life situations. So when I say you're directly responsible for the continued growth of the Incy channel, I really mean that. But with the grass, ferns, and bushes in place, it was time to set out to collect a few more decoration blocks, including but not limited to more cactus blossoms, some dead bushes, and a bunch more of the new dried grass. And I gotta be honest, I am really loving the new dried grass as decoration blocks. I've been thinking about maybe including some in the wheat field back at the starter island, so you guys will have to tell me what you think about that idea. But with all those blocks collected, I am just once again going to do a passover of the entire area, placing all of the new decoration blocks down. Now, we are not quite done with the ground cover just yet. I need to fly out to a nearby oak forest to collect a bunch of oak leaves, and then we are going to come back to this area and start placing these oak leaves down every now and again to make it look like some bigger bushes are growing. Now, before we start moving on here, there is another block I need, which is mud bricks and regular packed mud. So I've flown all the way back home to our starter island here, and I'm gonna have to check out some of these chests. Hopefully we have some left. Okay, I see we have mud brick slabs. Okay, there's one stack. That's not bad. Got a couple more stacks. Also not bad. Oh man, I think we might, we might be in business. I think we're in business. Do I have an empty shulker box here somewhere, please? I do. Oh, we shouldn't be needing too much of this, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I may have just saved us from an entire mud mining session, so that's pretty cool. I really don't know if this is actually going to be enough, though. Yeah, it'll be fine. Right? Yeah, it'll be fine. Now, the other thing I am in need of is brown stained glass panes. Here's the question. Do we have any... Oh, we have some extra shulker boxes here. Okay, that's pretty cool. Wait a minute. Let me take these. Do we have any glass left, though? We do. Okay. One shulker box of that should be enough. Let's head over to our greenhouse here, see if we can find some brown dye inside of this thing. This is not looking very promising. Oh, okay. We do have a couple of stacks here. By a couple of stacks, I mean like one and some change. Let's see how far this will get us. Okay, that actually got us pretty far. Wait a minute. I'm gonna leave just 2 cocoa beans in the chest here just in case that's the last we have in this area. And just over a full shulker box there should be more than enough. I doubt we're really gonna need that much. But now it's time to start heading back to our desert base. I gotta tell you though, guys, I can't wait to return to building in this area, honestly. This place just has my heart. And I'm not gonna lie, that mountain could definitely be improved. I built a mountain in hardcore Minecraft, anybody? Now the reason why we had to stop for that mud and brown stained glass is because I plan to actually use it as part of the base of the largest pyramid in this area. I'm taking inspiration from this piece of art I found online, and I thought it would be pretty cool if the bottom part of the pyramid was a different color than the rest of it. And I already know what you guys are asking yourselves. Incy, you never finished putting in the palm trees and the side of the river here. And you are correct. The reason why I haven't done this yet is because I actually need to build the 2 new pyramids first, so I can make sure that there's not any more terraforming we need to do, and I'm not going to eventually have to move those trees. So with that said, it was time to clear out some sand, get rid of the desert temple, and remove some of the villager buildings, and begin building the brand new pyramids. First stage of these pyramids are done. I just want to take a moment to see what they look like from a distance while we're rolling in on our boat here. Ew. Ew. Oh, this looks fantastic, dude. I am very pleased with how this is going. This is... I'm gonna throw up the inspiration image that I used on screen here and let you guys take it that for a minute so we can compare the two. I think this is pretty close to what I was going for. Obviously, we still have a lot more work to do, but I am very happy. Now, unfortunately, this third pyramid here is kind of floating in the air, which is not something I'm thrilled about. Apparently, I missed a block too. Hold on a minute. There we go. But it does look like we're going to need to do a significant bit of terraforming. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done as quickly as possible so we can move on. And so the first step in stage 2 of terraforming was just coming in with some stone blocks and outlining where each layer of land was going to go. And this had to be really precise because I wanted it to blend smoothly with the rest of the terrain we had been building, and the dimensions and proportions on this part of the build were a little weird. And the reason for that was because once we were done outlining all of the stone, we came in and we filled in each layer with more stone. So we had a completely solid bottom layer to build on top of. And the reason why I did this was because I needed to only have to place one layer of sand, and if I didn't have a layer of base stone, I would have been stacking, well, stacks upon stacks of sand on top of each other in order to get the blocks to the height I needed. But once we were finally done with the stone, we just came back in with a bunch of grass, moss, and sand blocks and blended this new area in seamlessly with the rest of the terrain. Now all that was left to do was to put the finishing touches on the base layer of this section by coming in with all the decoration blocks we used earlier and completing the ground cover for this area. Alright, so we got all of the terraforming on the right side of the build here done, and it is looking a lot better now. Especially if we go into free cam here, you can definitely see a bunch of progress that we made. We still need to do some smoothing in some areas here and up there to make it look more natural, but I'm pretty happy with it so far, and the reflections of the pyramids look sick in the water there. Look at that. But anyways, I'm not going to worry about doing those small details today. What we're going to move on and do next is add in a bunch more of these palm trees. Now, unfortunately, I actually have to start by taking this one down. I got to be one of the only people in the world that has to remove their trees with pickaxes. I gotta love some good texturing though. Get all this out of the water. Oh my god, I forgot my armor has Depth Strider on it. Oh my god, I forgot how good it feels to move freely around in water. Yes. Okay, but anyways, weird niche things aside, the reason why I took down that tree is because I want to have a clear view of the main pyramid from this side of the river. Now there are going to be trees all over here and all over here, but I do want this framed pretty nicely because right where we're standing on the map, I do eventually want to have a big main road right down here that stretches into the middle of the desert, because we are going to be building a massive city on this side of the river as well. Basically, guys, everywhere where you see a river's edge here in this biome, even over here at this river, it's going to be all covered in greenery and plants and trees, and there's going to be buildings and pyramids everywhere. I plan to have like somewhere between 30 to 45 pyramids throughout this entire desert biome. I plan to make this one of my biggest cities ever. Now, obviously, that is a long ways away and that's months of work, but I'm still really looking forward to it. But anyways, let's get to building here. Alright guys, this is what I'm talking about. This looks absolutely beautiful. I love the way all the trees came together here to create this kind of visual barrier between the water and the rest of the land, kind of hide the pyramids. Love seeing them peek out from behind the tree line and everything. I am very happy with the way this thing has turned out, and honestly, just looking at it from even in this direction here too, where I left this little gap for where initially like this main road will be eventually, I still think it looks absolutely sick, so I'm happy about that as well. But unfortunately, we are still not done with this portion of the video. I really do think we need some more ground cover to make this area look a bit more lush and dense. So we're going to be adding in a bunch more foliage. Now, fortunately, I do have quite a bit of leaves left over, so we won't have to worry about that. But I'm also going to start incorporating some bamboo into this area as well. And we are also going to utilize some sugarcane. And I'm also going to have to take a little side quest here out to our gold farm. Look how gorgeous this thing is, man. I still can't believe I placed all these blocks. But anyways, I just have to quickly heal up my shears, because we are going to be heading out to this old growth pine taiga right over here to try to collect some large ferns. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. Full stop. full stop. I have had an epiphany. If we just travel through our nether portal here, and we go through the portal that links to our old base, come inside the greenhouse, go below the greenhouse, and scoop up a ton of these bones, restock on fireworks, of course, head back through the portals, and then convert some of these bones into bone meal. I just remembered that down by the river, I did include a few small ferns dotted throughout the area. Here is one, hello. And if we bone meal this person, nice. There we go. We get a 2 tall fern, and then we get 2 small ferns, which means we can just farm these right here, which is fantastic. I know it may seem like I just did a bunch of stuff and that took us out of the way, but not having to fly all the way out to that taiga because I don't have a portal out there actually saved us a good bit of time. But once I was done harvesting our ferns, I went out to a nearby lush cave system to attempt to collect some big drip leaves and some small drip leaves. And the small drip leaves really were my priority, but as far as I'm aware, there's no surefire way to actually get small drip leaves in bulk. I think the best way you can get small drip leaves as of today is by finding a wandering trader that trades for them, which I don't have one of those yet, which is unfortunate, so we'll have to work with the amount that we can collect. But after I was done with that, I went back to our old base location to collect some birch leaves because I wanted to include a couple of different colors of leaves for the ground cover to just give us a little bit of a variety. And the forest that's by our old base, I do plan to completely remove and transform eventually as well, so I figured we might as well kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But once that was done, I was back in the desert and I began building these much larger bushes on the ground to hopefully make the whole area feel a bit more fluffy. And then after that, it was on to finishing the ground cover by coming in with some bamboo, sugar canes, drip leaves and small drip leaves, and a couple of other foliage blocks. And there we go, guys. When we take a step back and look at all of the detail we managed to cram into this small area, this place is really beginning to look like a work of art. And speaking of works of art, for Valentine's Day, I just got done running an art contest over on my Discord server. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to the winner of this art competition, Anki. I am so sorry if I just butchered your name, but Anki created some amazing pieces of art of Bashir the llama, who you can see hanging out in the background right now. And in particular, this is the piece of art that you guys in the community voted on to be the winner. And I just gotta say, these are all so incredibly beautiful. In fact, I honestly thought they were AI at first, but she actually made a YouTube video showing her process of designing and actually creating the art, which is just insane that she went that extra mile. So thank you, Anki, for entering the contest, and congratulations on winning, and thank you to everybody else who participated. Now, if you haven't already joined my Discord, I recommend you do that right now, because in the next couple of days, I am going to be announcing and starting a new build competition where you guys will get to compete against each other to design the interior of one of the builds in my hardcore world, and I will then take the winning build and actually make it in my hardcore world. So the winner will be able to say they have their own interior building forever cemented in Incy's hardcore world. But with Discord things out of the way, it's time to get back to the video. And unfortunately, we have to start by taking down the exterior portion of our first pyramid, primarily the extra water channel we have running around the base of it. Now don't worry, we're still going to be having a bunch of water elements incorporated into this build. This one is just kind of in the way for some pathways that I need to make, so we're going to remove it for now. And with that done, we're going to begin laying out the pathways that I just mentioned. And for these paths, I'm going to be using a combination of sand, sandstone, stripped birch logs, birch planks, oak pressure plates, and oak buttons to help make it look like the sand has really been stomped down. Now, on top of that, I've also marked out where a bunch of other pathways are going to go, but in order to be able to build those in a later episode, we have to do a little bit of terraforming on the desert. I'm not going to get all of this done today. In fact, we're probably not even going to get 1% of this whole project done today, but I'm going to get started on it the best I can. But here we go. The pathways are done, and I think they actually look really good and blend in really well with the desert. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I do not have all of the pathways done because there's just so much more terraforming that I need to do that I really don't have the time to get this done today. But just by looking at the stone, you can see the kind of scale that I'm going to be going for this city. It's going to be absolutely huge. huge. But next up, I want to revisit the back area of the pyramids here and begin building up this area by creating some kind of little underground structure. I have no idea what this is going to be yet, but I like the idea of something being submerged under the sand, so we're going to include it. I then just also built up some custom rock formations and filled in the top with sand so it blended seamlessly with the rest of the terrain. Alright, so I think I've done a pretty good job of blending this little structure in, and I even added these little rock formations over here using stripped birch wood and some sandstone, as well as some birch slabs to smooth out the rock work, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm not exactly sure what I want this building to be yet still, so we're gonna leave it empty for now, but I think if we go into free cam here, it adds a lot to this area. It's just something extra to look at and helps to add a more dynamic change in elevation. But I am really annoyed because I had a 5-minute live segment going over me building these little rock formations here, but of course the recording has been lost because my NVIDIA graphic drivers just had a new update and they're no longer working properly with OBS. Imagine my surprise. So I've been struggling to get any recording done in general, but regardless, we're going to press on. And next on our to-do list is actually building a pretty big crypt behind the pyramids. And as far as lore goes, this is where we're going to be saying all of the pharaohs and other high-ranking officials will be buried when they pass away. Alrighty guys, so the crypt is done and I am very happy with how this thing turned out. Especially looking at it from like a top-down angle right here, I think this thing is absolutely sick. There is just one more thing I need to do, and that is light these little spires or pillars here with some soul sand flames. And there we go, it is complete. Now, a couple things about this build here. I did try to include some things along the sides and the back that kind of look like little hieroglyphs or something, using stairs and slabs. I'm not sure if I'm crazy about the way it turned out, but I do still think it looks pretty cool. I've also got what I hope look like little lion statues in the front, kind of taking inspiration from the Sphinx, of course. I think I managed to get a good bit of detail into these little guys, considering it's only a 3x3 area and it's only 2 blocks tall. I got their little paws and claws with the mud brick slabs here, and I got the lion's big mane using shelves and trapdoors. Speaking of shelves, by the way, these things are amazing for detailing builds. I absolutely love them. As you can see, I use them everywhere in this build. This is basically my first time using them, and I am obsessed. I can't wait to use these more in the future. I also got like this little kind of like winged thing, I don't know, logo emblem in the front. I just thought it fit the theme of the desert pretty well. And then I've got these 2 spires on top just to add some extra extravagance to it. We also have this big massive stone door here, which you guys know me. If we go inside, there is no interior. Actually, speaking of which, I need to light this up real quick so nothing spawns. But I'm very happy with how it turned out. These lions also are supposed to be like little water fountain things. I tried to make it look like the water was coming into these pots. I don't know if I like that. I might remove that later, but I do like the 2 pieces of red sticking out in the front to add a little bit more detail to the build. But now the next thing we're going to do is transform. Basically, if we go into free cam here, this entire top layer of sand into that kind of water garden bog that I was talking about earlier in the video. And it's gonna come all the way down to over here and stuff, so we'll have a nice walking path, you know, past this little entrance area here, and it's gonna be sick. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started on that. Alright, so we're in the middle of a bit of a sandstorm here, but I have gotten all of the grass and moss in place here. Now, if we go into free cam here, don't judge me on this yet. It looks terrible right now. I mean, it looks really bad right now, but we're gonna work on that. And one of the first things we need to do is we need to come into all of these new empty areas, and we need to replace the sand and sandstone with some mud to help darken up, I guess, the water, I guess. And then we will just fill in these little places with said water. And hopefully by the time we're done with this area will be looking a lot more swampy than it is now. Alrighty, so all of the water and mud is in place, and I also built up this main pathway a little bit more here just to give us a good idea of how big it's actually going to be. And I think about 3 to 4 blocks wide in most places will be sufficient. But now what I want to do is come over here to one of these smaller little puddles of water that we have going on, and I want to kind of test out how we're going to actually decorate these things. Now, one of the things I'm really annoyed about is that I do not have a lot of small drip leaf. I absolutely love this block, and unfortunately from what my understanding of the game is it's pretty difficult to get in bulk, although I would like to get a bunch more of that. So unfortunately this block will have to sit out a bit, but what we can do is just come in here and start decorating this little pond to see if we like it. And I'm going to start with just placing in some leaves around the edges. Something like that should be good. And we're also going to throw in a lily pad or 2 in these places. Also bring along a couple of ferns. We'll decorate here with a little bit of grass as well. Something like that. Also got a few pieces of sugar cane we can dot through the area. We'll do about 2 blocks tall there. Maybe we'll have another one that's just 1 block tall there. We're gonna place string on top of them to prevent them from growing as well. You know what, maybe even another one right here. That could be pretty good. Then we'll throw in some of this drip leaf, and I'll come in with some bigger drip leaves here. I think that looks pretty good. And then the main thing I want to do is come in and put down some of these little hedgestones in the middle. Again, this area is kind of going to act as a graveyard. So just something like that, just to kind of give the indication that somebody was buried here. I think that will be pretty cool. And then honestly, we can kind of just like build this up a little bit, something like that. I guess we could put down some blue orchids, like maybe people were paying respects. And I also went ahead and picked up a few candles that we had left over from our last couple of builds. So we'll place those down as well. And I will grab my flint and steel and just light those real quick. And yeah, just having a bunch of this all over this place is going to be really sick. I cannot wait to do this transformation. Of course, we're going to have trees growing as well. So all of this will be pretty shaded and dark, and that'll really help us to set the atmosphere. I'm also going to come in and maybe throw in some moss carpets every now and again, just to give us a little bit of variation here and there, but I actually think that's good. And yeah, aside from the floating roses we have here, I can't pick them up because my inventory is so full. I think this looks really good. So again, like I was saying earlier, I'm just going to go around and do a once over of this entire top area here with this kind of ground cover and gravestones and stuff, and then we'll see what this looks like when we come back. Alright everybody, well, after a few hours of placing down a bunch of blocks, we have now transformed the ground layer of this bog slash swamp, and I have to say I am very happy with all these little gravestone sites here. I'm also just happy with the rest of the area in general. I think it looks pretty cluttered and just the way I wanted it. Also is starting to look really cool on the map here, but there are still a few things left that I want to do. The first thing I want to do is actually come in with some more mud along the bank of the swamp here. Just fill this in and combine it in with the leaves in a bunch of places. I want to really kind of darken up this area, though we are not going to completely do this all over the place, just in a few spots here. And then we're just going to come in on a few of these spots where the mud is, and we're going to help make it look a little bit better using some grass, some short grass, kind of help get us that darker mud color, but also blend blend it in with the rest of the greenery a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. Something like that. Now, unfortunately, we are out of mud, but that's okay because we are going to have to go collect more for the next stage of this build, which is actually completing all of the mangrove trees. So in order to do this, I am just going to empty all of our shulker boxes here into these chests because I am going to need to make room for a completely new roster of blocks. We can keep the oak leaves though, also keep the moss, but the rest of these will be used to collect all of the blocks we're going to need. Now, funny enough, the first set of blocks that we are going to need can all be found in the mangrove swamp. And I call it funny because basically we need every single block that's here except for the actual mangrove wood. Now, I am going to turn shaders off for just a minute because my computer really hates this biome. Look at that fog down there though. So cool. But essentially what this means is that I can tear down these mangrove trees starting at the top and go all the way down to the dirt layer through the mud and just leave the regular wood standing. And not only will we collect all of the blocks we need right now, but this will expose all the wood that we can come back and get later if we do need mangrove wood for something. But anyways, I'm just going to spend the next couple of minutes collecting a bunch of mangrove leaves in the tree canopy here. And then once we are done with the leaves, we can return for the mangrove roots, and of course the muddy mangrove roots, and finally the regular mud as well. But with all the swamp blocks collected, it's now time for us to just hang out in our moss farm again to collect a bunch of moss blocks and moss carpets. And then with a couple of shulker boxes of moss collected, we are going to move on to the next block on our list. Hello, villager. I'm surprised anybody's back. Are you enjoying the werewood tree? What kind of trades do you have? I see you have a blue diamond, so I've used you before. Ah, sticks. Very nice. Anyways, like I was saying before I was interrupted, we need some of this hanging pale moss. So I'm just going to stand here at this tree for a little bit and cut this down. And then once we are done, I believe we only have one more block to collect after this. Fortunately, in our spare chest here, I believe in some places we should have some spare spruce left over. I just have to find it. Maybe there's a chance we have a few pieces up in this kind of like little secondary chest monster that we have going on up here. Yes. Oh, thank God. Okay. That is a big relief. As long as we craft up a few extra blocks here, we should be able to avoid having to go out on another tree harvesting mission, so that's always good. But with the last of our blocks collected, it was time to get on to the final stage of this video, which was building the mangrove swamp. Also, this is my cat Leia. She wanted to come say hi. Everybody, this may not look like it, but this was like 2 days worth of work, and I am very happy with how it turned out. I absolutely love the look of this mangrove swamp and graveyard that we have made here. I think it turned out perfect. If we go into free cam mode here and go from above, you can see just how many trees we have planted, or I guess rather built today. In the time lapse, you guys watch me make all of the mangrove trees, but in my spare time in between clips, I also came in and added a few of these palm trees that we had along the riverbank here as well, just to give us some more height variation. And I think it really adds to this area. Now, I also came in and decorated the main pathway a little bit better. I added in some stairs and slabs in some places to make it look a little broken down and wonky. I added in some rooted mud, some mud bricks, some coarse dirt, even some spruce buttons for stones every now and again. I also lined the edges with some more moss to better blend it into the swampier parts of this build. And I absolutely love this main tree here that we have covering the main pathway, because when you're walking out of the pyramid here, which will eventually be like, I guess, decorated like a castle, it'll all be filled with rooms. When you're coming out here, you don't really notice the crypt there. I mean, aside from the bright blue flames that you can see, I think I did a pretty good job of hiding it pretty well. So you're just walking through here, and then your eyes and the pathway kind of lead you along down to the right, and then as you swing around, you are greeted with this right here. Good Lord, that looks gorgeous. I am absolutely in love with it. Now, there is one more thing I want to add while we have have some daylight here. I saw a video by the Peaceful Penguin over on YouTube where he was transforming his nether hub, and he had this really clever idea to use end rods and dried gas to make ghosts or spirits. And if you guys remember from a few episodes ago, I actually have a bunch of dried gas left over. And from when I did our Ender build, which used thousands of end rods, I still have some of those left over as well. So we are going to go out kind of further into the swamp here and by some of these gravestones. Where's a really good one? Yeah, like right here. I just want to add in these little creatures that look like spirits, something like this. Like maybe the spirits of the people who have died here are still floating around the area, walking around in the background, and I think this is going to add such a cool little detail to the build. So again, shout out to the Peaceful Penguin for, I think, coming up with this idea. I've never seen it done before anywhere else, so this was my first introduction to it. Yeah, we'll have some lost souls wandering around the place here. Oops, that's not where we want that. We want that right there. Maybe this one could be a little bit smaller, something like that. And then I really would like to have one visible from the pathway here, kind of just peeking out over the corner, almost kind of menacingly, like maybe like right here. Let's see what this looks like. If we put a little guy there, are we able to see him from the pathway here? Yes, we are. Right there. That is perfect. I really love that. But we do have 8 more of these guys, and I already have a happy gas. I don't see myself ever really using many more dried gas, so we are going to just use the rest of these around the place here. We'll kind of make these guys just wandering around. But now for today's episode, I think it's fine that we call it quits on this area. This looks so cool. I'm so happy with the way this turned out. But that is definitely going to do it for today's episode, so I hope you all have enjoyed. If you did, of course, drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel to help me out. I'm trying to reach 200,000 subscribers by the end of 2026, so any help would be appreciated. And I'm sorry for the long breaks in between videos I've been taking recently. I've addressed this a few times now, but I've just had some real life stuff going on. But now we're back on track and I'm roaring and ready to go, and I'm gonna have a couple banger videos out to you guys very soon, so keep your eye on the channel for that and have your notifications on. But that's gonna do it for me today, so with that said, I gotta get going because I have much bigger projects in mind.